Hello, everyone. This is the third episode of Mr. Plaid's Clubhouse. Let yourself in, relax, grab a drink, and let's just head into it. So this week I'm by myself again. I couldn't really find anybody who would be free to do a podcast this week, but I'll have some guests on soon, probably in the next episode. And it's okay. Maybe we can use this time to get to know each other a little bit better. Um, I had a topic in my head. Well, I thought I did, but I'm not sure if I want to go into it. Um, I am working on a couple of projects that are not related to YouTube at all. Um, One of them being I guess a novella. What's the difference? I don't know. A book. We'll just say a book for now. Um, a book, and it's an idea that I've had for about a year now, and I'm kind of starting to get some writing done on it, and it looks pretty good. I think it's a really good idea. I've never seen it personally done before. I'm not sure if I want to come out with the idea for it yet, just because I'm afraid that I'm going to get my own hopes up, that I'm going to tell people on the internet about it, which means that means I need to commit to it, and if I don't commit to it, then I'm going to feel bad, So, um, there's that one, and there's also a superhero project I'm kind of working on at the same time. I'm not sure if I want it to be a graphic novel or just a comic in general. I don't really know what would be better for what I want to do with it. It's not a comic book about just one character. It's about several characters. So if I were to do a graphic novel, I'd have to do it in different, trying to think of the word here, different points of view. And I'm not 100% sure how to go about that. I was actually kind of thinking each chapter could do a play on like a new comic book. Kind of like how, when you read a comic, it's like, for example, if it's Spider-Man, it's like, oh, Spider-Man issue number whatever, and then you get through Spider-Man's story, and then you would in this idea that I have, when it goes to the next character, it would be like a new comic. It'd be like, oh, Incredible Hulk, this and that. So I'm not 100% sure how I would go about that. I'm not even sure if this is an idea that will stick with people. I don't know if anyone would even read it. I just have a lot of cool concepts for heroes and characters and stuff like that, and I kind of want to see how that would play out, maybe. So we'll see about that one. I do want to write someday, or get into writing more someday. I have written before. I wrote short stories in high school for I say extra credit, but if there was ever an option for writing a short story instead of doing a different assignment, I would always take the opportunity to write a short story. And I've been told by my teachers in school that they're actually pretty good stories. I mean, obviously not good enough that, oh, we should publish this and whatever, but they were good enough that, hey, you have some sort of a base here. Let's see where this goes. Maybe that was a little of an ego boost to me rather than them actually thinking it was good. But I mean, whatever. I also wrote. I technically wrote a play in high school. What it really was, it was a music showcase with dialogue. And basically what that means is we were having a holiday, um, I'm saying festival, but that's not the word I mean. If I think of it, it'll come back later. But it was a holiday themed showcase, I guess, of different songs. It was for right before winter break. It was like our final, or not even our final, but it was something that we were supposed to do before the end of the year, the actual year, not the school year. And instead of having a bunch of songs, I suggested, hey, why don't we have like an actual musical type deal, like a jukebox type deal, kind of like if you know what I'm talking about, like Mamma Mia, where like it's a musical, but all the music is songs by ABBA, or I think Rock of Ages is another. I'm not 100% sure, but basically a jukebox musical for the uninitiated is a musical that takes songs that already exist and incorporate it into their story. So I don't know any other good example than Mamma Mia, if you guys even know what that, or have even seen that, because I personally haven't. I just know what it is. But basically, we took songs from different musicals, and the actors on stage would sing them, and then in between songs there would be a scene of dialogue. And what I did was I wrote my own take on Gift of the Magi, which was pretty good for my first time, and also something that I didn't really put that much energy into. It was more of a, oh yeah, you can do this, might as well, from my director than anything. And I would say that I did a pretty good job. I was a little overzealous though, because I decided to put myself in the main role, and I don't really know why, because I'm not a good singer. I'm I don't know why I was in a musical theater class, considering that, but I wasn't really the singer type, and I had, for the most part, kind of gotten out of singing songs. Like I always wrote the context of the scene was that I just so happened to not be there, or the music was playing over the speakers and I didn't have to sing anything. I had thought I'd gotten away with it, but like not even a week before the show was supposed to come out and be shown to everybody, my director pulled a 180 on me and was like, hey, you need to sing something. And I was like, oh, okay. So she gave me a duet to do with this girl who we cast as like the main girl. So basically the Gift of the Magi is, there's a couple, they want to get a gift for the other person, so they sell up their prized possession to get the gift for the other person, but the gift that they get only really works with the thing that they just sold. So, for example, let's say we're going super modern times here, but let's say brand new game console is what the guy has, and then the girl has like an iPhone, whatever. This is like really weird example, but just go with it because it's gonna make sense. So the guy wants to get a gift for his girlfriend, but he doesn't have any money, so he sells his game console to get her like a new phone case or something, which seems pretty extreme to get for a phone case, but we're just going to go with it. So the guy sells his console for a phone case, and the girl wants to get him a new controller for his console, so she sells her phone. So now they just have a controller and a phone case that there's nothing that they can do with, because they sold. It's a cute little Christmas story. It's like, oh, we don't need our prized possessions because you're my prized possession or whatever. In fact, in the show, I actually used the line, the only presents I need this Christmas is your presence. Trust me, I know I'm smooth as heck, ladies. So I do this whole play thing and I write it and I'm like, okay, cool. I don't have to sing anything. I would say personally that I'm a pretty good actor. I've been doing acting stuff since I was in middle school, I want to say. Technically elementary school, but I don't count it. And I'll say I did a pretty good job my life acting, except for a couple instances. And she throws this duet at me, And she's like, you get to sing this now. I know you have no singing experience whatsoever, but go for it, champ. I was like, okay, great. So now I have to learn a song in less than a week. And it's not going well because there's a high note. It's not even that high of a note that I just can't hit. It just sounds dumb. And it's just not working out. And I'm kind of hoping that she's just going to cut it out, and she doesn't. Day of the show arrives, and there's my friends and family are sitting there because I wrote a play, and they're expecting a good show. And I'm, through this entire show, I'm just like dreading the moment where I'm going to have to sing this song right at the end. It's literally like end of the show song. Like, this is what finishes the whole thing. And I'm not going to say it went bad, but it didn't go good either. And I think that's one of my biggest regrets in high school, is not conceding the main role to somebody else. The reason why I put myself in the main role wasn't really a narcissistic reason. It was more of there's 3 guys, and 2 of them are already cast as something they're way better at. So I don't know, maybe I could have switched things around or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Point is, I messed up. And it's not the first time that year. Or maybe, no, it was like the year before. Technically the same year. So at the end of the school year, we put on a production of Aladdin. And I'm not even talking about like Disney Aladdin. It was like real no shit 1001 Arabian Nights Aladdin. So there was like a whole bunch of different characters than normally. I say normally because of the Disney version, but like there was like a mother and a sister, so Aladdin wasn't even an orphan anymore. And there was like 2 more genies. So there was like 3 genies. It was just a crazy ride, and you know, it was a good show. And I kind of ruined it, but it was not my fault. So what we would do for practice every day after school, basically, and during class, was once we quote learned our lines, we would start from the beginning and get as far as we could until the bell rang or our time was up. So this is like a no shit 3-act play or 2-act play. 2 or 3 acts, whatever, with like 12 or 16 scenes in both acts. And we got the first part nailed down. You know, I mean, it wasn't like the best ever. We were still struggling because we had a lot of people who signed up for the class who weren't really actor material. I wasn't the best actor of all time, but I know how to act, and a lot of these kids didn't. And they were in the class because they had to be, and they were in the play because they were in the class. We'll just leave it at that. And so we're going through the show. We got the first part down after like 6 weeks or 9 weeks or however long it was. And then we rehearsed the end like 4 times, like total. So basically the ending of the show, I'm supposed to, you know, Aladdin gets everything he wants or whatever. And I walk out on stage and I'm like, wow, thanks everybody on this journey or whatever. Like, there's like reveals for all the characters to kind of take like a final scene together. Like, there are people blocked in different places that were just for that scene. And then they moved so that it would make bowing easier at the end. This is like the final no shit scene. And I totally fucked it up because, you know, I'm supposed to be like, oh, thank you, Genie, for helping me with this, and thank you, this person, for helping me with this, and so on and so forth. And I get to this scene, and the scene / show is supposed to end with me turning to this person who's technically, the character is supposed to be based off the person who wrote 1001 Arabian Nights, or they're a character in the book or something. The name is Scheherazade, and I'm sure some of you are going to know that name and what her role is, but basically she's a storyteller. And the end, I'm supposed to turn to Scheherazade, the character, and be like, this would make a really great story. You should write all this stuff down. And that's after I thank everybody for helping me and whatever. So I get up there, and nobody really knows their lines. We're all kind of flubbing. And I'm just sitting there. It's like a weird silence. It's probably my line to keep it moving. I'm probably the one that fucked everything up the most, because I just stand there for a good 45 seconds. I just slowly turn my head to the character of Scheherazade. I could see everybody next to her just with the wide eye, oh shit look, like this is about to happen. You're gonna fuck everything up, Jimothy. And I just turned and I'm like, well, that'll make a good story. You should write all this down. And you can just see them mentally putting their hand to their forehead, just like, why, Jimothy, did you do this? You're so dumb. So the lights, because that's the cue for the lights to turn off. And tech crew does know what they're doing because they have a script up there. So they quickly flip to the stage directions on that. They turn off the lights, and then everyone does their bowing. And the audience doesn't really know shit. It actually went pretty well considering how rough the process was. Like, us as the actors on stage would have given us like a 4 out of 10 for the performance because like how badly it led up to that. But parents and friends who know the situation were like, I give that like a 7 out of 10 based off of how I know it took for you guys to get here. And it was like a 6 out of 10 otherwise, So like just knowing the shit that you guys went through, that was pretty damn good. And everyone's acting like it's my fucking fault or whatever. And at this point, I am like already melting into a bubbling pile of fuck me. I'm just like depressed and sad, but I have to look happy because all the parents are out in the hallway and shaking hands or whatever. And I'm just like utterly depressed. And then it just kind of dawns on me. I was like, this ain't my fault, like at all. Because if it was, I would be more upset about this. I realized it wasn't my fault because my director just didn't fucking let us practice the ending lines together. Like that whole scene that I just talked about with thanking people and stuff, we legitimately did that once, and then we ran that halfway through the show down like a total of 4 times, not including that last scene. And everyone's acting like it's my fault. I'm like, I mean, when did we practice? Like that wasn't me. I don't know. Anyway, everyone was all mad at me, and my director was kind of pissed at me too. But that was her fault. That wasn't my fault at all. And yeah, so whatever. That's a regret of mine, a cringy moment from high school. But those 2 moments. But yeah, I was in a lot of other. I wouldn't say a lot of other, but I was in a couple of artsy programs too. Like I was in band all through high school, and I was in ceramics my last year of high school as a senior because I was just like super super easy to do, and the guy was a pretty good teacher, and he was like, hey look man, as long as you tried your best, I'm not gonna fail you. So that was pretty cool. High school is just like, just school in general up until really college, and even college I'm not 100% sure about. It's just shitty. Like, what a huge fucking waste of time, to be completely honest. Like, if I had my way, I'd be working at like 14 and then never look back. It's just I'm trying to think of like stories. So like even from elementary school to senior year, I would say I was a pretty good kid. like I never really got in trouble for something that was like actually my fault unless I was just like talking to another kid or whatever. Like that's like a different story altogether, but like there was so when I was in elementary school, I want to say 3rd grade, so I'm like 9, I was taking post-it notes and I was making like a little house. So I had like 4 walls and a roof and I had like a little door and whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter. And I was making this house during class. So I mean, I wasn't paying attention. I'll give him that. But the way this teacher handled this fucking situation pisses me off even to this day. Like if I ever have kids, I kind of don't even want to send them to public school because I've lost all faith in the education system, public education system. And I was sitting there doing my house, and the teacher like looks over at me. I'm sort of in the back of the room. I mean, not really, but far enough back that like if you were to like look up and look back down, you wouldn't notice me. And she sees this little pink post-it note house, and she comes over to me, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm making a house." And she was like, "Oh, it's a house? Is it a log cabin?" Because we were talking about Abraham Lincoln, so she was trying to find. I guess she was trying to find some way for me to be quote engaging. But I'm like, no, it's just a pink house. And she's like, oh, a pink house. So she like legit says it like that. She stops the entire class to go like out the door, down a couple doors. So she like left this class unattended for a good 5 minutes. She brings this other teacher who also leaves her class for a good 5 or 10 minutes. I don't know what the fuck was going on with her head, but she walks over, she's like, go ahead, tell her what you were doing. Like, she's like calling me out in front of all these kids, and then this old ass lady I've never even met before in my entire life. And I was like, oh, I was just making a house. She was like, oh, that's very creative, like all sarcastic and being a fucking asshole. And I was like in my mind, I'm just like, I'm just a fucking kid, leave me alone. So I'm sitting there, I'm surprised I didn't cry, because I was a super sensitive kid when I was growing up. And she's just like, okay, well, whatever, I don't know. She got me in trouble. I don't remember what. And she walked away with this teacher, and they like stood out in the hall and talked for like 15 minutes. Like, legitimately, you wasted so much time on me because I was being a little bit creative, working with my hands, you know. Like, and then she just stops the entire class to go get another teacher and just embarrasses me in front of everybody. I don't understand. And this teacher could have easily just walked up to me and was like, hey, what are you doing? You're not engaging. And then it's like, sorry, I'll be like, sorry, I'm making a little house. And she's like, oh, that's really cool. Put that away for now. We'll get back. You pay attention, and then we can get back to that later when we have some free time. Didn't that just sound so much fucking better? Like, that literally just came from a woman who just doesn't care about her job and doesn't care about the students that she's teaching to. She's literally there for a paycheck, and then she's gone. And if you're going to be a teacher, you can't fucking do that. If you're going to be a teacher, you gotta be nicer to these kids, you know? I don't care if your husband broke up with you. I don't care if you're having a shitty-ass day. I don't care what you're doing. You're talking to a fucking child and embarrassing him in front of all of his peers, and then getting another teacher from down the hall who does, like, we had no connection. It's not like that was my mom or a family member or something where, like, hey, come get your kid, you know? It was a fucking stranger. She just basically threw me under the bus and like, hey, look at this fucking idiot making a house while we're talking about Abraham Lincoln. What the fuck? You know, it's just stupid shit like that. I have a lot of stories like that. Like, a super simple one. I was in 2nd grade, and this teacher was like going over class rules on the first fucking day of school. She was like you just had like a 3-month break of children, and she's like going over rules and is like, I don't want to hear crazy noises or anything like that. And I sneezed, like legit sneezed. To be fair, I might have made a weird noise while sneezing, but that's just what I did as a kid. It wasn't like anything malicious. It was just like, that's, like I just like made, because you watch cartoons and like they make the, they make weird sneezing noises, and that's just like, I don't know. It was bullshit, because she turns to me and is like, exactly like that. You have silent lunch. And I'm like, I just sneezed. And it took me like 2 minutes to like convince this woman that I legitimately just sneezed. And by the way, silent lunch, that's also a crock of shit too. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this in your schooling, but what my school did was you would have like 30 to 45 minutes to eat, which is pretty normal. We would eat at like 10 o'clock in the morning also. That's when lunch was, because that's fucking perfect. And we would sit there and eat our lunch. I mean, we have friends, we would sit as a class. So each class had their own table, which I don't 100% see a problem with, but is still kind of weird. Like, why aren't you letting me sit with the people I want to sit with? I don't like any of these people. But we're sitting there, we're eating our lunch, we're talking or whatever, and then all of a sudden, classical music comes on over the speakers, and then the whole lunchroom goes quiet, because that's quiet time, that's eating time. They have so in that 30-minute period, there's 5 minutes of eating, 5 minutes of silence, 5 minutes of eating, 5 minutes of silence, and so on. And it's just crazy to me. Like, how are you going to develop social skills if you only have 5 minutes to talk? And then, so, let's just say, in that time, you start talking to somebody else, then you get silent lunch. So they move you to another table entirely to sit by yourself and eat, which, again, embarrassing me, or embarrassing somebody in front of everybody, isolating them. They can't speak to anybody, and you wonder why these kids are so fucking stupid when they're trying to be people, because they don't know how, because you're not fucking teaching them. And let's just say if you got silent lunch or whatever, and then you talk to somebody at silent lunch, like you're at that table, and then there's another kid staggered away from you, and you kind of make a gesture to them, or you look like you're about to talk to them, or you do talk to them, then you get 5 minutes on the wall at recess. And basically what that means is that we have 20 minutes for recess, and if you were a bad little boy, you would go stand on the wall, and you would stand with your back on a brick wall, and you would just stand there. You weren't allowed to sit, you weren't allowed to move around, you weren't allowed to talk to anybody, you were just supposed to stand there in silence. And I had a teacher in 3rd grade, fucking fat ass piece of shit teacher, fucking hated her. She got me in trouble for something dumb, probably talking, and she was like, okay, 5 minutes on the wall. I'm like, whatever. I sit there, I'm on the wall for 5 minutes, and then I go off and play. Because, I know how to tell time, because I learned that 2 years ago, and I have a watch on. And then the teacher basically grabs me by the fucking ear and is like, what are you doing? I told you to get on the wall for 5 minutes. Like, she said, get on the wall for 5 minutes. I was like, it's been 5 minutes. And she was like, no, it hasn't. She fucking throws me back onto the wall. I'm like, what? So the next time I got in trouble, which was probably the next day, I timed myself and I went. And then she was like, no, 5 minutes on the wall. And I'm like, so you want me to just stand here all recess? And she was like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, so recess is only 5 minutes? Legit, I said that to her, and she was like, you're being snotty. I don't like that. So I had to stand on the wall for a week. It was the worst, and I fucking hated it. Now, the worst thing I ever did in elementary school, this was kind of my fault, but not really. This could have been just a teaching moment, but it turned into just something fucking ugly. So I was in Boy Scouts. I think I mentioned that in a separate episode, or maybe not. It doesn't really matter. I was in Boy Scouts. And, when you're out there, if you have to go to the bathroom, you just pee on a tree. And I've peed at my elementary school twice. And or I have three P. I actually have three P stories. I'll save one of them for another day when I have somebody else on. But I have two P stories for you today, or two times that I peed. And once we were doing a career day, and I was in a legit race car driver jumpsuit that I had to. So we all see where this is going. I peed in a bush. Okay, that's the big crime here. So I zipped down my jumpsuit, took my arms out of it, and then I lowered it more so I can get my little weenie out, and I peed in a bush. And nobody said anything. Nobody saw anything. The most obvious thing that could be going on right now, nobody said anything. And then later on that year, so this was fifth grade, later on that year, I did it again because, I mean, first of all, nobody was letting me go to the bathroom, which is why I did it in the first place the first time. And again, nobody was letting me do it again this year, or this time. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do what I did last time. And some little dipshit caught me doing it, and I'm just like, I mean, okay. Like, he was like, oh, you're peeing. And I was like, yeah. I mean, I didn't really see what was wrong with that, to be completely honest, because I was an outdoor kid. We peed outside all the time. Whatever. I mean, I understand it now. Like, if I saw my kid doing that, I would be like, hey, you can't do that shit. But, I mean, I didn't understand what was going on. I was like, we do this all the time. I mean, use the bathroom if you can, but if you can't, then just do it out here. And I got in so much fucking trouble for that, which, granted, I get it, but it could have been a better teaching moment. They gave me like detention, so basically every time they had recess, I had to go to the front office and sit there and just write papers all day. And so I was I was getting in trouble. But the worst thing was when my mom came to like come talk to the principal, because like they called my mom about it, and thankfully she lives like a couple minutes away from the school. They were like, "Hey, your son fucking peed on a bush," and she was like, "Oh, that's gross," but he's a Boy Scout. He pee when he's outside camping. He pees on a tree. You know, it happens all the time. I get why this is a bad thing, but you know, it was just like an honest mistake. Like, she understood what was going on here, because nobody knows you better than your mom. And this bitch goes, well, maybe in some cultures it's okay. And just for a little bit of context, my mom's side of the family is Hispanic, not like super like you know, but we're Hispanic enough, and she has a dark complexion, and that's noticeable. So that was just borderline racist. That she was just spouting some fucking racism there for no reason, and that really pissed my mom off. And if my dad wasn't there, she would have probably gone to jail. So that was fun. But yeah, no, just people in school, especially elementary school teachers, they just legit don't care about kids, like, at all. Like, honestly, it makes me want to not put my kids in school because of how much the public school system failed me as a young child. And even like past middle school and high school, it was shitty. You know, there was a moment in high school. So I'm going to say freshman year. So I'm just starting out high school. Ninth grade, I'm like, what, 13? I don't know. I can't keep track. But basically, like I said earlier in the video, I was in a drama class, and we had two directors my 4 years of high school. I had one, well, actually, technically I had three. It's a pretty bad story about one of them, but I had one freshman year, one sophomore year, and then one junior and senior year, which is where I messed up the most as an actor. But my freshman year, we had this fucking cranky ass lady in charge of us, like directing us, and she goes, like, all over the place. She's just like a horrible person. But, like, you know, everybody loves her because she's a teacher in high school and she talks to people. So she's like, you know, like when it's the student she likes. So one day I was I was goofing off a little bit. I was like tossing a water bottle back and forth with somebody. And then the guy who I was throwing it with just fucking chucked it like as hard as he could. And it hit like a wall next to me and it exploded. Got all over me, got all over the floor, whatever. And the fucking person, because the guy I was throwing with was one of her favorites, she started yelling at me like it was my fucking fault. I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. I was throwing the bottle too, but you gotta yell at him. He was the one fucking destroying the place. She's like, you're cleaning this up, whatever. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. So I'm like actively cleaning this shit up that I technically didn't even spill. Like, he threw it over my head. Like, it wasn't like I could easily catch it or something. He like fucking threw it over my head. I'm cleaning this shit up. She's standing over me, and then she was like, are you proud? Are you proud of your actions today? I'm like, I mean, I'm usually not. Like, it's not that like I'm unhappy with the decisions I make on a daily basis. It's just like, are you, person listening, are you proud of your actions every day? Like, are you proud that you drove your car to work? Are you proud that you took a shit on the toilet today? I mean, I would be proud of you shitting in the toilet if you shit on the ground every other day, but you don't. You just do normal human shit. I mean, it's one thing to be like, I'm proud that you like aced this test or whatever, or even like something like, are you proud of your actions today, of like you rammed your car into the school building? Like, are you proud of what you did? You know, like shit like that. But like, I didn't even fucking do anything, to be completely honest with you. And I'm just sitting here, and then I was like, I mean, I'm not really proud of myself most of the time. And then she's just like, some people need to be taken out of the gene pool. She's like, the fuck? Like, she either meant like she wanted me to get castrated, or she wanted me dead. And I think she wanted me dead because I got water on her floor, you know. And that wasn't even my fault. Whatever. The point is, I hate public school for what it is. I mean, honestly, the teachers don't get enough credit, and I think why they are the way they are is because teachers don't get paid enough, and they don't get enough recognition, and it does suck. And I think it's appalling that the people who are supposed to be shaping our country's youth and future barely get a living wage. Usually, if you're a teacher, the other person in your household has to get a job to support you. You know, and that's really disappointing to me. That makes me feel like we failed as a country when teachers don't get paid shit. You know, and I'm not even saying that they should be paid the most out of anybody. You know, like you always hear like, oh, I want to be, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer. You know, those are like the two big jobs that pay a lot. People should be saying that about teachers. Teachers should be roped in there. They should have the good wages, you know, especially if they're the ones that are leaving an impression on kids for the rest of their life. Like, some of these stories date back from when I was like 7, you know, like, I still remember that shit vividly. Like, that same teacher who almost got me in trouble for sneezing. She there was like this holiday thing that we were doing where like we were making gingerbread houses with our families, and then we had like a little concert that we put on, like the ABCs of Christmas. And I remember I was the letter T, I was tinsel, and I was feeling really sick. And I usually don't get sick. I have a very strong immune system. I get migraines a lot, but I don't think that counts. But I rarely get sick. And my mom knows this because, your mom knows you better than anybody. And I told my teacher that I was feeling sick, and she was like, oh, well, just get through the assignment or whatever, because the performance was an assignment, of course. And because we can't just do something fun for fun's sake. And I'm standing up there, and my mom can physically see that I'm not feeling well. And she's kind of like mouthing, are you okay? I'm like, not really, I gotta throw up. And we had a bathroom connected to the classroom. And I turned to my teacher, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go throw up. And she was like, no, you're not. You're fake. It's basically, she said I was faking, and to just get back in line. And then I really tried to hold it in for like a good while. And finally, I just couldn't hold it anymore. So I started running to the bathroom in the middle of this fucking performance, and I just spewed all over the bathroom. It's literally legitimately the one time I've never made it to the toilet to throw up. And like the teacher's like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" Like she actually fucking cares. And then my mom was like, "Hey, if Jim needs to throw up, yeah, just let him go, because he doesn't fake. I mean, obviously I've tried faking once or twice, but it never worked out. Anytime I was sick, my mom could tell, and she totally had my back in that situation. And I guarantee you, if my mom wasn't in that classroom that day and I threw up all over the bathroom, that teacher would have gotten mad at me. I promise you, but she didn't, because my mom was there. See, I'm seeing videos all over the internet that are like, oh, a second. I think the video was like the second grader or whatever, the like 7-year-old girl on a Zoom class, and like getting like verbally harassed by this teacher, like relentlessly. I I think like she didn't do a test form correctly, and the teacher got pissed off because she's 7, and she was like, "Oh, well, now you ruined my Friday. You ruined my entire day. I wanted to have a fun day, but now we can't because you messed up." Like she's basically saying you fucking ruined it for everyone. And like the mom of the girl is just like filming this from the side, because the cameras can't see from the side of the computer. Like, I don't know why the teacher thought they were going to be alone, but like, you're being actively recorded and you still can't get your shit together. That's because you're a shit person. And I honestly don't think that people like that should be teaching our youth. And I think it's because of the low pay that they get like this. Because I don't think anybody goes into teaching because they want to be a teacher and they hate kids. Like, I don't think anyone goes into teaching like, oh, I want to make these kids' lives miserable. Because for all the bad teachers, I've seen the good teachers that actually care and want their students to succeed. And the fact that there's so many teachers out there that just can't get their shit together just pisses me off. And I'm afraid that if we do end up having a sort of bill increase for teachers, then those shitty people aren't going to change until, because they got a little bit more. That wasn't anything. That was a weird sentence. Let me kind of go back. Basically, I think teachers think everything's going to be okay. They go in with a good attitude. And, kids are little shits. Like, not every kid is an angel. Not every kid is a devil. But, you deal with, like, high school teachers deal with, like, 200 students a day. And then elementary school teachers deal with, like, 30 brats, like horrible young people all day. They barely get a break. And then one kind of acts up, so they get frustrated out for, like, unbelievably so. And I feel like if they had the more money, they would treat the situation better. But they're just so frustrated with their life that something bad happens immediately in front of them and they just snap. And it's kind of dangerous. You're kind of teaching these kids it's okay to just lash out at your problems instead of talking them out. Like, there's many instances in my life where a teacher has gotten me in trouble for something that could have easily been solved with, hey, don't do that, that's not okay. And that would have been the end of it. Like, I'm not a horrible person. The one thing I always got in trouble for was talking to other people, because I was just a chatty person. Like, there were many instances where, like, there was one thing I can't remember for the life of me, for some reason, that I did, and it didn't seem wrong to me, and then I got in trouble for it, and all I got was yelling. So I didn't trust my teacher after that, and that's supposed to be the person that's essentially your boss throughout your day. Because, when you're in school, that's your job. Your job is to learn. That's your 8-hour job. And when your boss is an asshole and you have no choice to escape, that's going to make you an irritable person when you grow up. And people always say video games are the leading cause of violence, but I'm thinking that all these teachers lashing out at kids is a pretty good um, violent, inspiring thing anyway. Um, well, anyway, this has gone on long enough, and I've tired my throat. Um, I didn't expect this to be a recounting school life episode, but here we are. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks for coming in to relax with me. I hope you had a good listen. I hope you got somewhat of a kick out of these stories. And if you have any suggestions for me, let me know. I saw somebody in the comments recently wanted me to make a taco, and you know what, I'll make a video on that if you really want me to. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me, and see you around.